Bonjour à tous. Je suis ravie de vous avoir une fois de plus pour le Grenoble Indian Film Festival. Cette année, nous avons tellement de chance d'avoir tous ces invités, des réalisateurs, des cinéastes que nous avons avec nous, des comédiens, des acteurs, des actrices. Nous avons des producteurs. Nous avons tous ces courts-métrages, nous avons un long-métrage, et le fait d'avoir ces courts-métrages, d'avoir ces rencontres avec des personnes, des cinéastes, nous donne l'occasion de pouvoir aller plus loin, de découvrir qu'est-ce qui a motivé ces films et de pouvoir leur poser des questions qui vont vous intéresser après avoir vu ces films que vous allez voir. Sur YouTube avec nous ou dans la salle, mais c'est tellement important de pouvoir poser ces questions puisque ces films, on les a choisis, ils sont uniques. Je suis ravie d'avoir donc Devashish Makhija qui est avec moi pour la première fois. Nous allons prendre son film TAANDAV. Mais avant de parler du film, je vais quand même vous expliquer que moi je l'appelle Dave, donc je vais utiliser le mot Dave, mais il a travaillé avec Anurag Kashyap au départ. Ils ont travaillé sur Black Friday ensemble. Ensuite, Dave il va partir un peu plus vers Yash Raj Film, et puis vous verrez, vous avez certainement dû le voir, Banti or Babli, le grand Bollywood bien tel qu'on le connaît, tel qu'on l'aime. Donc là, voilà un passage encore différent par rapport à ce qu'il a l'habitude de faire. C'est quelqu'un qui va ensuite aller vers un autre long métrage avec Nandita Das, donc plus côté régional. Et ensuite, il va revenir avec Aji et avec Bonsley, deux films, on va dire, atypiques, psychologiquement qui vous tiennent en haleine. Et entre ces deux-là, il y a TAANDAV. Donc, cette rencontre avec Manoj Bajpayee, un des plus grands comédiens, des acteurs de l'Inde, avec qui il va se passer des choses, et nous, on a envie de découvrir qu'est-ce qui s'est passé pour que TAANDAV et Bonsley, où Manoj après est devenu producteur, coproducteur, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé pour que cette alchimie fonctionne et qu'on ait pu avoir ces résultats avec TAANDAV, où on n'a pas l'habitude de voir Manoj Bajpayee dans un tel rôle, tellement unique, tellement original. I'm just coming back to English now, saying that you've worked with, the top people, you've worked with Anurag Kashyap. These are difficult schools. These are beautiful, difficult schools. Then you go into Yash Raj Films, which is another universe that you explored, and interesting, I imagine, to explore, because everybody knows this, and nothing in filmmaking is easy. Nothing in filmmaking is easy. So there's always learning there as well. And then you go into your first feature, and there's Nandita Das too. So these are important projects. Then we come to Aji and Bonsley, and in between we've got another meeting with Manoj Bajpayee, which is now two films, one short film and a feature, Bonsley, but TAANDAV that we're going to have, and you're going to be explaining this whole journey in a few words. Obviously, we don't have that much time, but how interesting, what an interesting profile, what an interesting journey. And you've got other hidden talents. You write, you draw. How did your interest for filmmaking and for all these different things come about? And so you're a super, super curious person.
The word probably super, super confused. Because years back, I wanted to do a lot of things. I had a music band, I wanted to write, and I wanted to publish. I was doing a lot of poetry. I wanted to perform, and I didn't know where I could do all of this. So the only thing that drew me to cinema was was not a love for filmmaking or a love for watching cinema. I was never a cinema buff growing up. But this confusion and this curiosity to do multiple media of expression, and somewhere only cinema allows that. So I came really to explore, can I do all of these things in one place? And yes, in cinema, you can do all of these things in one place. The Yashraj and all of those things were really accidental because I worked on Black Friday. Then accidentally, I was looking for a job and I got to work on Bunty or Bubbly. Then because I was in Yashraj and Jaideep Sahni and Aditya Chopra and I, we had a bit of a vibe going. So accidentally, I got offered a Yashraj film. Spent 3 years making it, and accidentally that film got shelved. And I wondered, why am I doing this? I never came to Bombay to make Yashraj films because I don't even watch Yashraj films. So 4 years with Yashraj, and then I started questioning what I was doing there. So I just explored. So it's just a series of curious accidents, I guess. Nothing more, nothing less.
And you're such a positive person. I like this way of just uh, the positivity you have. Obviously, we've met and I know you a little bit, and I see these beautiful films on such deep reflection, profound, and I think, wow, he can, he has this capability of going from one thing to another. But so then it's also a boon to have all this, where if one thing's not working out, you can always switch to
Yeah,
something else. There's always something that's keeping you positive in there, right?
yeah. I think the word there again is curiosity, like you rightly caught. So when I'm curious about the world, and like you lift a rock and you're curious to see what's under that rock. What is that little ecosystem there? What color beetle will you find? What length of caterpillar will you find? Those little things just keep you wanting to wake up every day. And when you lose that will to wake up every day, everything goes to hell. Especially in the last 6, 8 months of the pandemic. I mean, the whole world has probably come face to face with that sense of existentialism, that why are we here? How long are we here? What are we here to do? But that's that curiosity that gets me up every morning and ready to attack the world. And I try to hold on to that. So if a film's not working out, I will try and take that energy and write a children's book. If that doesn't sell, I'll take that energy and write a few short stories. But it's important for me to keep feeling curious. So I don't let anyone or anything get in the way of that. That's really served me in the last 15, 16 years of this really difficult filmmaking journey. I've seen a lot of people go down, not be able to. I mean, it's stressful and people call it a struggle, but I try to not use the word struggle, although it is one, because I don't want my curiosity compromised. That's all we have at the end of the day as storytellers, curiosity to know more, to explore, to discover.
See, the reason why we're doing these interviews with Zoom, and the reason why everybody does them in festivals, is to hear this. And it's to hear this because of the journey that you've accomplished. You've come to a certain level where you've understood that it's important to carry on, it's important to stay optimistic, positive. The people who are at the beginning of that journey, who haven't tried things out yet, are in a phase today with the crisis thinking, oh my goodness, but this was already hard
Yeah,
writing this, and now
yeah,
how am I going to shoot, because now I'm stuck in this crisis. So, but you've been, every film there is a crisis in making every film, and you starting from scratch. And so those little periods, this is
yeah,
a 1 year pandemic, but a film is what, a 4 year story, and it's a 4 year
yeah.
journey. So you're giving hope to so many people, you're giving hope to so many people. I just want you to say a word. And the other day also in the meeting with Taranjit, we had a word on this, on the crisis, because we're speaking about the crisis, to be able to say why it was important. I saw you totally engaged, part of so many activities to help people, the migrants, to help in Mumbai. Why, and why was it important for you?
If you see, I mean, you've seen a lot of my films now. All my films somewhere try to raise questions about where we've come as many things, as first as a species, then uh, as an economy, a world economy, then as a nation, then as a very confused mix of classes and religions and, uh, you know, indigeneity and languages. India is a very confused country. So all my films try to raise those questions. So when exactly those questions, like when you're talking about the migrant crisis that happened during the pandemic, it was really that class difference and that rift between the urban and the rural that sort of just blew out of proportion. It was always there, but everyone sat up and took notice because suddenly the migrants were having to do something really extreme. So if I'm already asking those questions in my films, and if it's now playing out in the real world, I cannot not engage. I cannot just relegate my stance to my storytelling because my stories come from those real experiences as well. So there was a chance to really do this. Like I have worked with the tribals, I have worked with certain classes of society that feed my stories, but they're always in fits and starts, a sporadic burst of involvement, and then I pull back to dwell on it and to create a story. But here, suddenly telling stories for 6 months had no meaning. If things are going so out of hand, what will my stories achieve? Again, to stay positive and to keep the curiosity alive, I said, okay, let's park my stories. Let's not make that an agenda for at least 6 months or a year. And let's just get out there and do what needs to be done. And it really kept me and I think that whole little community that we formed, Taranjeet and Chitra, it kept us going. Otherwise, we would have all individually self-destructed.
But
So it's
it's
an extension of the storytelling.
so yeah, exactly, and she said exactly the same thing, and I
Yeah,
feel the same thing as well because
yeah,
yeah, it's brought to us that we're part of a whole community, all of us together,
yeah.
and there's no choice. But I think that in this difficult moment there is beauty as well, it's coming out, it's the
Hmm,
gratitude, it's
yeah.
solidarity, there's so many things coming up, and so these very this very link with reality and with how people in real life are very real, in your films.
Hmm,
Now, I'm not going to give too much info because these are films that I want, obviously, for Giff, for next
hmm,
year, and I'm keeping my hand on these things without revealing
hmm.
too much. But because we have TAANDAV, and TAANDAV is a gem, and I watch this short film. I come across the short film. I look at the poster and I say, I can't imagine
Mhm,
Manoj. This is Manoj Bajpayee. And I looked closer.
mhm.
I'm thinking, oh my goodness, but who made him do this? So, see, my view is always, how did he get him to do this?
Hmm.
How did the filmmaker, get Irfan to do this, or how did they explain this scene to them? And there's so much beauty in this short film. So how did this idea come to you, and how did you come about uh, uh, contacting him? Did you make TAANDAV before you made Mosley? And so obviously you built that relationship, so with Manoj. How did all this happen?
So Manoj and I met in 2014 for Bhosle. He read Bhosle and we decided to make Bhosle, but deciding to make a film like this is a far cry from actually getting to make a film like this. So we had financiers and producers come in, then they walked out in 2014, in 2015, in 2016. So the film got set up 3 times and then it didn't happen. And then Manoj and I were both getting restless. And now when you're talking about 2 to 3 years of an actor and a filmmaker, walking hand in hand and trying to make that film, which actually, by the way, does not happen in this industry. Actors of his stature generally just tell you, okay, we want to do this. Now you go figure it out. When you figure it out, come back to me. This man stood by me. Someone who's probably at that time in 2014, I hadn't made anything of note before I met him. But he was sold on the script and he saw some value in our collaboration. So we were talking and discovering each other, and we both, in some way, have overlaps. He's a migrant to Bombay. He has faced at the hands of Maharashtrian authorities years back when they were trying to throw migrants out. Similar things to what I have faced. We both have certain philosophies and value systems and frustrations. I was seeing a lot of my own angst in him, and he had gone past that. He had had his phase, and he had reached a place of peace. So I was still finding my way through that phase, which he had had maybe 8, 10 years before I did. So when 2016, when the film got shared the third time, he said, should we do something like a short film? Because I had made a few short films by then and he had really liked them. So I went back and I had this idea for TAANDAV when I was writing Bhosle with my co-writers in 2011, and it had stayed inside me for 5, 6 years. I wrote it overnight, and I went back to him the next morning. I said, I have this. He said, fuck, I love it. Let's do it. So when we got to TAANDAV, we had already sort of understood each other, and there was trust. When you trust a filmmaker, and I can't say this enough, a lot of filmmakers like me, independent filmmakers, people give us a little money to make a film. Even after that, they don't trust us enough to fly with it. They want to keep that one vigilant eye on us right through the process. You don't give us freedom, we can't deliver because we've chosen to be independent filmmakers for a reason. We don't want to make money, we want to make our art. And Manoj was that man, that buffer who allowed me that freedom. That trust just allowed me to fly, and he just flew with me. So when you ask
So
me what did I
it was just do it. Do it your way. I'm trusting
just
you.
do
Do
it?
it your way.
Yes, yes. So it was blind trust. He came to the workshop, he came to the set with full surrender. Where do you want me to stand? What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to look? How do you want me to move? And that, when you ask me what did I tell him for him to dance that way, I don't know. We sort of reached a place where we heard each other in silences. So by the time we got to that dance, which was, I think, the last or the second last thing I shot, we shot everything else, and his dance was remaining. I have literally just put on the camera and let him loose. It's a single take.
Really?
We planted 4 mobile phones in the crowd, so it's like mobile phone, mobile phone, mobile phone, main camera, mobile phone, main camera. That's how it's been cut. So it's almost like a 5 camera setup, and he's just let loose. So it reached a place of convergence, and that I don't know if I can put it in words, but there was a lot of trusting each other, finding that relationship over 3 years. That sort of culminated, I think, in TAANDAV, which sort of empowered us for Bhosle when we finally made it 2 years after that.
See, Lady Gaga, when she was on stage for the
Mm.
Oscars, and you're thinking, well, Lady Gaga, so, I mean, so well established. Did she need to even say this? For the film where she played the lead role with, I'm forgetting his name, you know,
The
uh,
director actor, now I'm forgetting
the
his name
director
too.
actor,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And then she gets this beautiful part that she's not
A Star is Born.
expecting.
No? A Star is
Star is
Born.
born.
Yeah.
And she gets the part. We feel she's so confident. I mean, you see her, the way she dresses and everything. And then she gets onto the stage and she goes, this guy trusted me. And for every single interview, there were even some YouTube channels that were, just cutting that and
Mm.
putting it all together, editing it and putting it onto YouTube saying, trust, 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 making
Yeah.
fun of that. But that's the base of everything,
It's
right?
all there. It's all
You're
there.
bearing yourself,
Yeah.
completely. And if there is not that truth and that total transparency where
Yeah.
you living with the person and doing this journey, which is like a family, you're
Mm.
really living everything. The person's going to see you in every possible, but it's all condensed into what, I mean, 2 years, 3 years. So the whole of all that, living everything, the frustration, the anger, building, creating, seeing the
Yeah.
person through the different phases. Obviously, there is that factor of trust. And Anup said exactly the same thing.
Mm.
He said it was the trust that
Yeah.
that made me, you know, go forward with what I expected of him.
Yeah.
How did so when he comes to you and he says, well, I could have put him here, I could have put him there, how do you react to that? Because you're like, I have this such an important person here, we get along super well, and then you're switching your head from the person I know to the actor, or are you focused completely, this is the actor, I'm the master here, this, I've got 2 hours, I need to get my shots, whatever, I need to get him to get my thing, and I'm totally focused, and it's hard to do, it's hard to do. So, and here, give us a little bit of your tips about these new filmmakers. You're going to work with such a big actor who said yes to your little short film, and you've got the person there. You also had a big project for a feature, so then there's a bigger
Mm.
discussion there and a bigger,
Mm.
a more important relationship. But how to feel comfortable with the situation, how to get into things, and what was your impression?
I think the key here is to not let the idea that it's a big actor consume you. And somewhere I have met a lot of stars in the past. I've tried to set up 15 different projects before Ajji and Bhosle happened over a period of 10 years, and they didn't happen. I've done my rounds. I've been in Yashraj, I've been on Bunty or Bubbly. I've seen the biggest names in the game. But the minute an actor, and I chose to walk away from the star system and big budget films for that particular reason. The minute a star actor comes on set or even comes to meet you with the baggage of them being bigger than what you're trying to make, you cannot arrive at an authenticity with what you're trying to make. And in Bombay, there is a problem. Stars do consider themselves bigger than the films that they are in, most stars. And so I chose to not ever plug into that journey. I plugged out completely. With Manoj, he comes as an actor. So when I'm talking about trust and surrender, I'm talking about him not making me feel like he's that big actor. So I need, because I'm also trying very hard to leave that baggage aside and just look at him as another actor along with the others within my frame. For me, a frame is not inhabited by an actor alone. An actor is one of many elements in that frame. And if an actor starts making me feel that they're bigger than what's surrounding them in the frame, I can't push for authenticity. So the biggest thing that I can say about Manoj is that he didn't make me feel that. He was sitting on set right through shoot. He was just another actor in the film, although I was aware that he's the actor because of whom this film's getting made in the first place. I didn't let that color my interactions with him. And that I think shows on screen. There is an even keel. We are all on the same level somewhere. And that translates to authenticity. So if a new director, first time, second time director gets a big name, if that big name is making them feel that it's a big name, that he or she's a big name, I would strongly recommend walk away or live with a compromised film because you will never be able to arrive at an authenticity with that person.
Now we see I'm daring to say all this because there is an authenticity in your film, and it's so visible there that not everybody can reach. And so I'm using this
Yeah.
to be able to speak about these things that are so important. And in a society where we grow up right from the time you're born into, oh, there's hierarchy, oh, this person is
Yeah.
more important than you, oh, he
Yeah.
walks into a room, so please bow down, forget everything you are, and just adapt to the person is. And having
Yeah.
lived, and this is a similar thing with having lived in Japan, where I was teaching English and they would tell me, no, the boss, I was putting them into groups with levels, and they told me, no, the CEO cannot be in a starter beginner group. And I said, I'm going by levels. I'm not going by CEO or hierarchy. I said, in France, we put people into the groups for English with, the level they have. So if
Right.
he's a beginner
Right.
and if he's a CEO, he will be a beginner. And I
Mm.
think that it just shows society, yeah. And in
Yeah.
India we have that. We have this
We have
thing
that.
of oh, the Sahabas entered the room,
We have
and
that.
it's important for young filmmakers as well. So that's why they stay into these little in these little stories. And we were discussing all this with Saurav at Cannes, or with Payal in Cannes, where they're in their little stories in the little villages with unknown actors, or actors that are not going to be uh, well, beginners, and so that there is not this conflict between this
Yes.
very well-known person,
Yes.
etc. How
Yeah.
do you think Manoj does this? Because I asked the same thing to Anup for Irfan, who had worked
Mm.
with him quite a bit. Now you've also worked with Manoj quite a bit. How do you think he has this capacity, which is unbelievable, of just completely, you know, flowing, merging into whatever he's doing?
Mm. To be fair, I don't think anyone's born with it. And if you really call a spade, he's had his phases where he wasn't this way. He's had a phase where he's done a certain kind of cinema and that didn't work for him. And then he had a phase where nobody was casting him. And he has found something deep inside of himself, found that truth that he as an artist came to seek, maybe. And really, Tandav released, I think, a week before Aligarh. And Tandav and Aligarh have been that beginning of his second coming, where he has
Mm.
truly found the artist that he always came here to be. So I think he's had his phases where he's made those mistakes, where he's not connected with that artist inside of himself. And I'm fortunate that I met him in this phase where he was ready to surrender and ready to forget that he's an actor of stature and just acted, put his craft before himself. If I had met him maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe this collaboration would not have worked. So we've entered each other's lives at a time when, it's the convergence has been fruitful.
Do you
So I
think
think
it
all,
comes?
yeah,
Do you think it comes with maturity? Do you also think it
yes,
comes with, okay,
with time, there's some things in your artistic journey that you can't rush. Even what you see now as positivity in me, I didn't have this 10 years back. I was bitter as hell because of my films not working out. So it comes with time when you start ironing out the creases and you want to be in it for a marathon. You realize suddenly one morning, I wasn't here for a sprint. Nobody told me that. They told me it was a sprint. And you realize yourself that it was never a sprint, it was always a marathon. That's when you start changing lanes and you sort of slow down. Your breathing changes because now you're preparing for a marathon. And that's when you sort of settle in. And I think that's when the true art really emerges. So I'm also maybe looking back, I'm fortunate that I had my phases when my films didn't materialize. Maybe I've reached that, but time. I would always emphasize the importance of time. You've got to give an artistic journey time. People think in this Instagram age that you wake up and you should be famous and you should be great at what you do. You can't be. You have to give it time. You have to work on your
um,
sculpting.
right. So this is this, yes, because he said exactly the same thing about Irfan. He said he grew.
Hmm.
There was growth, and
Yes.
we both grew
Yes.
thanks to these stories and what we had to say and what we had to share. And it
Absolutely.
was sharing.
Absolutely.
So you found your space and you're comfortable in this space because this is what you want to do. And as I said, I was going through your interview and you said, well, people can bring me a story and I'm not going to shoot it. I won't direct it. Tell me a bit more about that. That's interesting, huh?
Like I said, I was never a film buff. I'm probably still not. I watch films academically. I don't really enjoy watching a film as much as I enjoy my music and my reading. So I would never make a film for filmmaking's sake. So even let's say after Bhosle released, I've got about 3 to 4 offers every day because studio executives, I think, are hired to scout the fresh talent from last Friday's release. So they keep, I've been getting film offers and web series offers, and they tell me, we really like your work. I said, okay, forget what you're offering me. I have 16 stories and ready scripts that I want to make, but they're not interested in those. So I'm not interested in
Oh,
any stories but my own because my prerogative is not filmmaking, it's my politics. I'm putting my politics in my stories. I'm putting what I feel about my nation, about the world in my stories. I'm holding up mirrors. I'm asking questions. I could have been an activist if I wasn't a storyteller. So this is my activism. So if I'm not allowed that, I'm not interested because
and
I'm
you
not
and
here
you
for the medium.
and so Dave, and you're complicating your life by saying exactly what you want to, and you're standing up
Yeah,
to
yeah.
everything.
And it
So
always will be, if it's not this government, it'll be somebody else. But nobody wants to be held up a mirror to. We don't want to see our ugly faces.
yeah, so it's filmmaking with a purpose. It's filmmaking totally with a purpose, living with a
Hopefully,
purpose.
hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah. uh, um Other projects with Manoj.
Yes. In fact,
Filmmakers have their actors, I mean,
yeah.
they work with people, they have their actors, things go well, and they want to explore more. They never get
Because
enough.
it's so hard to make a film that's not a market-oriented product, anyways, because people don't give you money. When they give you money, they're suspicious of what you'll do with that money. Then you make the film, then nobody wants to release it. So the least I can do is make my life easy on other fronts. So if here's an actor who really trusts me, who enjoys working with me, and commands that kind of an audience, who the fuck am I to say no? So there was another script of mine that he read 5 years ago, and he's been adamant to get that made. So the minute Bhosle released, we started talking. We've been talking to a couple of producers, and hopefully we'll be able to set it up by next year. It's much bigger than Bhosle and more political, and a lot more exciting because it will also be an action thriller. which I've never done with
Wow,
in this.
exciting to hear this, hein? Super exciting to hear this. Je fais juste une petite parenthèse que j'ai oubliée. Hadji et Bonsley, je ne sais pas si je l'ai dit au début dans l'introduction, ont été au Festival de Busan. Le Festival de Busan, c'est juste le festival le plus prestigieux en Asie. Donc, d'avoir son film au Festival de Busan, ce n'est pas rien. On sait quelle est la place du cinéma coréen. Ce sont des maîtres dans l'art du cinéma, hein, puisqu'on a aussi vu l'Oscar avec Parasite. L'Oscar, hein, meilleur film, meilleur réalisateur, c'est absolument inimaginable. So Busan is just not anything to have your films, two films of Busan, most prestigious festival in Asia, but also the whole Korean, cinema looking at you. Cannes worships Korean cinema. Korea then, invites both your films. So these are, big moments. These are big moments. It's a big step, huh? Also to go around in all these festivals. What's it been like? And I keep saying that this part of the journey is as important as all the other parts.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah. No, films like mine, you're not going to get an audience to just walk into a hall or turn on their device and want to watch it because they won't even know it exists. The festival journey is everything. Bhosle got a release during the lockdown because we did 1.5 years of festivals. There was that credibility, there was that constant noise around the film. Also, like when people ask me, why have you, I mean, you take so many years to mount a film. Do you really want to go through this journey over and over and over again? Because the kind of films I'm turning down in the last 3 months since mostly release are mostly studio projects that will come straight to an online platform or straight to a theater and won't do festivals. What I tell them is that the 9, 7, 4 years it takes me to set up a film, that film has a life that is 4, 7, or 9 years. It's not a Friday release and forgotten a fortnight later. So I'm not in a hurry. I don't want to make a film quickly because it will be forgotten as quickly. The longer you take to make it, the more depth and density you bring your film, the longer the world is going to celebrate it. And Bhosle, imagine it was shot in 2017, world premiered in 2018, won APSA in 2019, released in India in 2020, and celebrated at each of these, milestones. It's been alive for 4 years. Why would I not want that?
Exactly.
So I love the
exactly.
festival journey. I'll never give up on that.
I think it's super important. Huh? I think it's super important.
It's everything for a film like this.
And our films coming from India, we can't say we have that many films, floating around in
Yeah.
festivals. So when we've
No,
got
we don't.
festivals of that importance, recognizing our work, this is vital. Now, any news from Anurag on your work? What?
No, not really. Anurag, I mean, I was part of his journey between Black Friday, which was 2003, and
He's a
around the
crazily
time of,
busy guy. Huh? He's awfully
yeah,
busy also in every
and
direction. Huh?
every direction. Yeah. So 2008 onwards, sort of our paths sort of diverged. So I've been in touch socially, but no, we don't engage much with each other's work yet. But on a personal front, I have been in touch, and we've always spoken of him helping produce a film that I make. But I've never called on him because I know that line outside his door because he's
Right.
the messiah of independent films in India. So that line outside his door goes around the block. So I've never signed up for standing in that line. So someday maybe we'll collaborate on something, but until then, no, no word really.
And then everybody's world has come to a standstill with
Yeah.
the lockdown, and so we grabbed this moment and we said we have to grab people who could possibly have 2 minutes to spare, who in the past didn't have like 30 seconds, and let's try to harass a few so that we can get them to the festival, at least to for me this is like having the person with us. You are with
Yes.
us, and
Yes.
people
Yes.
have this thing of being able to see her and touch her, and that's obviously going to be more linked with the Bollywood films. But for me, this is so vital. The other thing is with Zoom and like I said, it's the intimacy thing with, you know, you being able to feel that I'm still sitting at home, you know,
Yeah,
having a
yeah,
chat without
yeah,
the
and
stress of saying, oh, did they clap? I need to wait for them to, you know, things to,
yeah.
everything makes the
No, and
atmosphere
also
different.
this is empowering for the independent journey, because I'm sure as a small festival, y'all are also struggling to put infrastructure together, to get this streamlined, to get people to watch. So to do that in a physical space, you can't really afford to have filmmakers like me there. Filmmakers like me can't afford to be there. This is that wonderful middle ground.
Right, right. And
Very empowering.
and speaking to somebody the other day, I went, "Oh, do you think I need to buy this special, you know, tool that I put onto my camera so that things can look a bit better, a
Mm.
bit more professional?" And this is somebody, you know, important, and lots of people I discussed with, they went, important filmmakers, they went, not at all. We've all got
Yeah.
used to the Zoom quality, you
Yes.
know, drop it.
Yes. Yes.
They said,
Yeah.
as long as the sound is good, all good, you know, because people who love
Absolutely.
films are there with you. Don't worry, they're going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm coming to this. I'm coming back to the set. Okay. Now, something super interesting that we don't hear very often. And you spoke about talent, and I like that. And I said I need to ask something, and we need to go a bit further with this about working on a set. People have this thing about this miracle thing. The film is a special miracle, and we put it on a, you know, up there, you know, on a pedestal. We're praying to everything, and it's a beautiful art. But you bring things, and you bring things down to a very day-to-day level, and say, well, it's a bunch of people working together, and they need to obviously get along. So tell us what you said, uh, relating with this. Huh? I think it's vital to know and never forget, and say, hey guys, we're here. We're a bunch of people making this film. Everybody's got talent. We're putting in the effort. And to keep reminding young filmmakers that, hey, you know what? This is not to become famous, but this is to put in
Yeah.
the effort, and keep going. Huh? So tell me a bit more about what you said.
I think somewhere that also comes from the fact that we use words like film set. Now, that's a very American studio mindset of how a film gets made. And therefore, people start mythologizing and make this mythical thing around the making of a film. But films like mine and lots of filmmakers like me, we're out on the streets. I'm shooting in slums. I'm shooting in like Ajji, the house is a real house. Bhosle's house is a real house. They're both 8 by 6 feet. They're 48 square feet. Half my films, both these films, are set inside a claustrophobic confines of 48 square feet. So when you're taking away those mythological parameters and you're just making it a very uh, day-to-day job, because you've signed up for a little war and you basically need to ensure that you overcome that beast of insecurity, of odds being stacked against you, of fighting the sun, because you're all these films are shot with natural light. I don't have 40 lights to simulate a time of day. So with all these things, it really you leave the most, what people think is the most important ingredient in filmmaking, talent, you leave that behind very early in the process. There are enough talented people. I said this in that interview. There are enough talented people in Andheri, forget Bombay, Andheri being this little neighborhood where all us filmmakers stay, who have not been able to make the kind of films that they want to make. Because good films are made with sheer hard work and human resource management, because you need to manage people, you need to manage the expectations of 40, 50, 70, 100 minds as fertile as yourself. You're not the only fertile person on that shooting floor. Everyone's got ideas, everyone's there to live out their creative journeys. So to manage all of that, to align all of those, to make them converge to your vision and to bring something authentic on screen, takes way more than talent. It's not talent alone. Talent just gets you started on that journey. In fact, I'll go so far as to say I probably see more wasted talent in Bombay than I can count bricks in walls. There's so much talent that goes nowhere. But there are lots of good films made by people who you would have written off as He's okay, he's not so talented, but just sheer hard work, good human resource management, keeping at it, got those films made.
So when you're saying good human resource management, tell people what this means for you. Having your experience and having handled all, what is what is a cast like? What is a crew like on a Devashish Makhija, film? It's how many people? Because there's all that to manage. There's everything going on all at the same time, and then shooting in Mumbai, shooting in India is a special thing already on,
Yeah, it's so
it's
chaotic. Yeah.
it's
And
special,
out
no?
of control. Yeah.
Right,
No,
right.
so
So
it's not about the size of the crew, because often people, especially the American indie scene, they romanticize the idea of a very small crew. You know, like 12 people make a feature. It's not possible in India, because in say in the US, you have such systems in place even for lighting that one gaffer can light an entire film. Here we don't have those systems. We still have lights that one man can't even carry two lights at a time because they're so heavy and they're so archaic and they're so difficult to handle. So you have a minimum of 8 to 12 lightmen on a really small film. So my smallest crews are about 40 to 42 people. My smallest crews, and a crew on Ghostly crossed 120 on a good day. So it's not about the size of the crew. It's really about the kind of people that inhabit that crew. So I don't, again, because of resource crunch and also a certain thought process I have for the kind of energy I want on set, I don't hire professional ADs, for example, who have done 4 films, 10 films, 12 films, and who know how to run the set. I don't want that energy, because I'm trying to foster a bit of a family here. We're on a real location. We've got real streets. We have real policemen dropping by 3 times a day asking for bribes. We have real slum people who we are displacing from their homes to shoot inside their homes, who are eating with us. We are eating the food they're cooking. So I'm trying to foster a temporary family. So I don't want too much professionalism, because sometimes too much professionalism runs the risk of alienation, of talking down to the people in the real space whose space we have encroached for that 1 month, 1.5 months. So I look for young short filmmakers who don't really want to assist but want to get ahead in terms of experience. So my crews are made up of short filmmakers. And me having been a first AD on Bunty or Bubbly, and having run a set that big with those size of stars, I'm my own first AD. So I run my set. I just need really nice people with good hearts who love cinema and want to bleed for my films. I fill my film crews up with such people. So most of my films, if you notice, are first-time cinematographers. All my cinematographers from Ajji and Bhosle and the short films I've made, it's the first film they've ever shot, is the film they've shot
right.
with me. So I'm looking for love, I'm looking for passion. I don't care for professionalism. That will come. And the minute that comes, actually, a lot of warmth, goes out the window. So I'd rather have the warmth. So that management, that preparing people for the kind of war that I'm getting them, to fight alongside me, is the chunk of time and energy that I spend on my films. Just sitting around talking.
Do you feel that it's the same thing? Well, like you just said, that flies out of the window the moment you got professional people. Do you think it's the same thing here in Europe, in the US, when you work
Again,
on?
Europe and US are two very different beasts. In Europe, I see in a lot of countries, Turkey, in France, uh, in Sweden, I see a certain, when there's an independent artistic filmmaker, I see only an artistic impulse driving them. But when I see an independent filmmaker in the US, I still see the market driving their decisions. Because thanks to Sundance, there is now a different market, ecosystem that has evolved around the independent film. So I'll give you an example. I studied the winners of Sundance over the last decade, and 70% of the winners were road trip films. I'm like, why are they churning out one road trip film after another? Because suddenly that has a market. So I don't see them both as the same kind of ecosystem. I see that artistic impulse, that slight chaos in Europe. I don't see that in America. I see a sense of professionalism even on those sets that are just 12 people. And somewhere I find, except for a few sparkling voices like a Greta Gerwig making Lady Bird, I see a lot of them like it's just more of the same. It's just not at the scale of an Avengers. It's much smaller, but it's the same attitude. You're still playing to the gallery. You're still working with the 3 act structure. I can still predict your beats in your storytelling. You're still going with the hero's journey. You're not really breaking the mold. But in Europe, There are voices that surprise me. They're breaking the mold. They're looking to break the mold.
Right. And this is the whole thing. And this is the reason why your films go to Busan.
Yeah, and
because
America.
they
None of
stand
my
out.
films.
Huh?
I haven't had a North American premiere of Ajji or Bhosle. No North American film outside of the Indian film festivals touch my films. They don't know what to do with my films.
You do, yeah. So what's the response? And have you shown it to people? And how are
Yes, yes.
they?
We've applied always from Sundance to Palm Springs. We've been rejected across the board. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to speak to an American audience, maybe. I don't know. I'm happy. I don't want to learn that
Is it the
market better
cultural
myself.
thing that they do not have the
No,
background?
not really, not really. They need a certain familiarity with tropes. And I'm always looking to break the tropey familiarities. So I think they don't know how to peg my film. They don't know the niche that will watch my film. If you see the Indian films that actually find North American audiences, they have certain tropes that North American audiences find familiar. Whether it's a Lunchbox, which is a rom-com, or an America, which is a road trip film.
Hmm. Right. But I think it's so important to come up with this new thing and people go, oh, what was that? And you're having people sit up and ask that question. And then there's also the cinematography and the fact that you're taking this. Would people call it a risk? Some would. But the fact that you're taking new people, you're looking at this new vision, and you've come across something that nobody else saw in this cinematographer. I mean, the Bhosle is just a beauty to watch.
Mm.
A
That
beauty. Now I can't go any
cinematographer,
further. I can't
yeah,
go any further.
that man is a beauty. He's
It's
held out
unbelievable.
from work for so. He lives in Ladakh in the mountains. He's a farmer. He refuses to come to Bombay if he can help it. He's a gem. Even I
Gem.
went through 14 DOPs before I found him. I found
So
him. I
so
didn't let him.
so what happens? You find this guy, and so where did he come from? How did this happen to you? You did you ask yourself all this? Like,
Of
how
course, I mean,
come?
none of these. I mean, of course, I'm oversimplifying when I say that I work with first time DOPs. I don't choose to. I look for DOPs. I end up with familiar people who have done a lot of work, and they can't sign on for my process. And on Ajji, the gentleman who shot at Jishnu was my 17th DOP on the film. Jigmet on Bhosle was the 14th gentleman who came on the film. A lot
So
of them
what do the
came,
guys
left.
before him say? Well, how did they
it just
react?
gets it gets very intense. There's not much money to be made on my films. The process is very intensive. I do a lot of prep. I do a lot of discussion. I demand a lot. I demand a lot of time. I demand a lot of warmth. I demand that people become part of the family and not just come do a job and go back home at 6 p.m. So they come in thinking that it won't be that way, but then they see it becoming a lot more consuming than they signed up for. And one by one, they just keep leaving. I look for new people. They keep leaving. And so I start my recruiting process much earlier than most people do, because I know half the people won't stick it out. So, and that's a process. I can't, it's a filter that I have to allow time to filter people out and arrive at the final crew. It always happens on all my films.
Do you think that there's a possibility of somebody just loving the result that there is, the response they've had? This is also a stepping stone for them to be able to really showcase their work in such a beautiful
Yes.
original way. It's also a business card for any DOP to be on
Yeah.
such a original film, which is going to be different from everything else we've seen. And plus, this is their work, because cinema is what we see also. Huh?
Yeah.
And uh, so do you feel that once the films start going around and people realize, oh, it's been to a festival, etc., you could, in a couple of years, have people come back to you and go, I want to do something with you again?
It's difficult because this country, again, we don't have an organized system of cinema making. In the US, you have guilds. In Europe, you have the state supporting you. Here, we are just living in chaos. So I don't grudge them that. There is literally no money to be made on my films. We all walk away, including me as the director of the film. We walk away just with our month's rent. for the year that we have spent making the film. So I don't expect people to come back to me. If they do, it's a bonus. In my experience so far, they've never come back. One film is more than that they can take working with me.
Right.
But I hope to work with them again. I try to get them a little more money maybe the next time around, but I can't promise them that because my films are hard to set up.
But when you hear about stories where once this is not the only thing in the cinematographer's life, because he could be doing something else elsewhere that is
Yeah.
paying really well.
Yeah.
And that is also gives one freedom to be able to say, you can't do this. You're the main story. You're the main person shooting. But they could go say, okay, I go do this. Like even so many stars who shooting this ad to pay the
Yeah.
rent and the taxes. But then I'm going back to what I deeply love, which is this or that type of cinema that I want to really go shoot. And everybody's split, got this split
Absolutely.
personality with
Yeah.
what I really want and what's going, what wants me and what
Yes.
I want.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to know, yeah, exactly how people function and how things work. Huh? I am coming back to what Arun said, because we've also got
Mm.
Arun's Film Sunday. Now, we
Yeah.
discovered, obviously, and we wanted to know how you both knew each other. And he said exactly that he gives us space. Now,
Mm.
I could be somebody not important, had, no background of film school. I will get the same importance as anyone else who really maybe is a proper VIP or whatever on Dave's set. Not everybody has the generosity. Not everybody puts things uh, in this way of, of filmmaking, so that everybody feels that the core of everything is the film and that we all need to be totally focused on the film instead of people. Um, so tell me a little bit about that. You said you wanted people to feel that this is a family. Yeah, we're going to
Yeah.
be on this journey for quite a while,
Yes.
and everybody has to be as close as possible, because you need to be in people's heads to be seeing that vision,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And not looking at one's watch. So, what was your reaction to his film and him coming to you? What did you like? What made you say, well, oh, we can, work together, do a little bit of this journey together?
Like I said, I mean, I seek people who aren't professionals in the field and who have a certain passion for the medium. And he used to run this site called Jamura that would write about independent cinema. And he was pretty much a one-man army. He was writing, interviewing people, trying to keep that ecosystem of independent cinema and the dialogue around it going. And I really admire that because it's in this country, it's really hard to keep that particular fire around an independent dialogue going for years. And he had written about my short films multiple times. So at one point he wanted to make a film, but he didn't really know how to make that transition from writing about films to making a film. And so I asked him to come work on Ajji, and he was my DA, my director's assistant on Ajji. But he also was enthusiastic enough to not see boundaries and go beyond what was expected of him in the job of a DA. So he stayed through post production. He ideated with me on the edit, and he also contributed to the making of the behind the scenes. So when Bhosle happened, I was again looking for a crew of young first time short filmmakers. So I asked him if he would captain that team because he had already seen my journey on Ajji. So for him, I think that journey from Ajit to then being associate director on Bhosle made him feel a little equipped to go out there and make his short film. So I've pretty much seen him go from writing about films to making a film. And that's a pretty comprehensive journey to have witnessed firsthand in somebody. So I feel very
Right.
proud. I feel very proud and feel very glad that that fostering of a family that I'm talking about actually manifests. It had someone go on that exploration. Now, that said, that fostering of the family is one part of it. The other thing that I said was war. I look at independent filmmaking as a war. And I keep talking about us as soldiers. I keep telling my team that, you can't be standing once the firing has begun and suddenly feel like you can't fire this gun because you might survive. The guy next to you dies. So you've got to prep yourself for this war as if you're ready to die. Because I have had, in those years of trying to make my films not getting made, like I think all struggling filmmakers who've struggled with their voice, I've had my experiences, my medical emergencies, and my health scares, and I've had a heart attack, I've had prostate cancer, and I've reached stages where I always felt like this could be my last film. With Tandav, it was made with I might die after this. Ajji was made with I might die after this. Bhosle as well was made with I might die after this. So if you ask Arun, sometime he'll tell you that I kept telling the team that I need all of you to inhabit my head so deeply that in case I die on day number 12, the shoot cannot stop. The final
It's so
film,
important, this.
it's so important. The film cannot stop. You cannot run from the battlefield because your commander fell to a bullet. You've got to keep fighting. The end of the war may not look the same with the commander dead, but at least it will be the end of a war. You will not have fled the battlefield. So for me, that's important. So I get everyone on the same page because of my deep insecurity of maybe I won't survive this film, but I can't have the film go to my grave with me. My film has to outlast me.
So
So
no,
that's
it's important, huh? It's important to say all this, but because we all want to, have a look into what really happens when they're all working together on the set. What are they saying to each other? How are they motivating how's everyone motivating everyone? Because like you said, if somebody's sitting in a corner doing his own thing, why is he here? Like,
absolutely,
and to be
absolutely.
able to understand that minute, from the moment go that, hey, this is it. And there's no other way. And we can't do this
Yeah.
over and over.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Huh? It's really hard to be able to get the result. Now, I also heard that you said, um, I haven't been to film school.
Hmm. No,
I mean, this is unbelievable.
I was a journalist in Calcutta for a year. Then I was in advertising. I was a copywriter for 2.5 years. Then I came to Bombay and I did some architectural design for about 6 months. Then I met Anurag, and because I had a bit of a journalistic background, he asked me if I'll research Black Friday. So I spent 6 months doing almost crime journalism research. I didn't know I was going to assist him. Then I assisted him and my journey began. So I wasn't even a film buff, forget going to film school. I started watching films in Anurag's house. Because I said, oh, there's this, oh, there's that. He had these pirated DVDs in those days. You couldn't really get your hands on the real thing. So my education began after I started working in film.
Right. So this is so interesting, huh? This is interesting. I hope it's going to be inspiring young filmmakers. I hope everyone's going to watch this after watching TAANDAV. It's going to surprise everyone. I hope it does. And then we small festival, but big from the heart and totally passionate about, cinema people, what they do, how they function, what they're doing next, what's coming from India, to be able to show these gems, the beauty of what we're doing, and that people can't imagine, because it's not enough to say, hey, we're the biggest producers in the world, but
Yeah.
what are we putting out there that the world
Yes.
wants to see?
Yeah.
And despite all of us have our love, for Bollywood, and there's not only that we have to say, to the French viewers as well. And
Yeah.
Grenoble Indian Film Festival is bringing that. We're trying to bring that. When we say we were neighbors with Cannes, and we have Manto that's been roaming around here, so we need to get it to the festival. And Sir Rowena Girard was in Cannes, and we
Yeah.
need to get these films, but also from Busan, like your films, also from other festivals. And some, when we get Songs of Scorpions, etc., we say, well, if there's also, it's true co-production with Europe, it's opening more doors, it's making things easier. Every time you got a co-producer from a country, you're opening that territory for the
Yes.
filmmaker. And
Yeah.
so it's so important, and we are seeing that there's more and more of this coming. When I look at Batra's film, uh, totally French, with French actors, I'm saying that we're moving one step further, that anybody
Mm.
can meet up. Obviously,
Mm.
always been the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's important. It's important. And I'm still waiting for the halls to open. I'm still, you know, a hall person because cinema is for me the whole experience. And at the same time, for the first time on all these platforms, because we don't have the choice, huh? And we can't miss stuff either.
No, not at all.
Right. So please carry on writing and making us beautiful films, working on beautiful projects, and pushing everybody to read your 15, 16 scripts before they think of their scripts and their money, and so that we keep seeing these beautiful stories. We're comfortable with our stories because you're a writer. You will be comfortable with what you're filming, making the final product, because you have that writing skill you've had as a writer. And that's also what I was sharing with Arun, saying once you're comfortable in the writing chair, you know that this is another huge chunk of everything that there is that comes later, because the thinking process and writing and putting it into the right box is also, when we're shooting, will help put it into the right box as well for everyone else.
Absolutely.
Not everybody has the talent to do this. So this is totally an immense quality, essential quality, and super important. We hope that we will have you with us soon one day at Grenoble Indian Film Festival. Okay.
Would love
Our
to.
lovely city in the French Alps. All lovely little city, easy to go from one place to another, and a break from taking you away, kidnapping you from your work, and bringing you here, hopefully,
Really look
to
forward.
be able to speak to the audience, meet them, and you know, exchange with one of your films here in Grenoble. We really look forward to that, because this is also the cinema that we're trying to promote and that we've made the festival for. And that we're extremely proud, so proud of seeing Indian cinema with films like, you know, your film, your features, and it gives us a sense of pride to think that, you know, there's more of this that is going to be coming out of India, and that people really need to discover here, really need to discover. So thank you so much. A million thanks to you for your time and for this lovely interview, which I hope will then become, you know, a proper meeting in person soon here in France. And you know, stay in touch. This is your home. It's open. You're welcome anytime. And we hope to see more of these wonderful films and you know, the wonders that you're doing with filmmaking. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
so
very,
much.
very much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care, please.
You too.
Bye.